Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to walk you through rebuilding a Keihin CDK2 carburetor. Here we have a Keihin CDK2 carburetor off of a Kawasaki stand-up. The owner wants me to not only rebuild it, but to strip the paint and put a new coat of paint and clear coat on it. So you find these mostly on Kawasaki's and Polaris's. Like Mikuni, this carburetor is made in Japan, and like the 38s and the Super BNs, this carburetor also operates on a 2-circuit metering system, which means you have a low speed circuit and a high speed circuit. The low is often referred to as a slow jet, and the high speed circuit is also called the main circuit or the main jet. Before digging right into the carburetor, make sure you are using the correct bit and fastener. Because these carburetors are made in Japan, they use the JIS bit, also known as the Japanese Industrial Standard. You can buy these bits online. I bought these from McMaster Car. I bought several different sizes, so that way I'm using the correct bit and I'm not stripping the head of the screw. Fuel bowl looks pretty clean. We do have a little bit of varnish here, but definitely in great condition. Unlike Mikuni, where you want to replace both the needle and the seat, the rebuild kit's only going to come with a needle. So we're going to keep this seat in place and just clean it. We're also going to take this fuel filter out. We're just going to take a pick and wedge it in to the depressed area and pop it off. Additionally, you're going to have to change the O-ring on this seat, and taking a look at this one does not look good. It's seen better days, so we're going to get rid of this and put a new one on from the rebuild kit. Another thing that's different on these Keihin carburetors is you have this collar in here, and when you lift that up, you reveal our metering ports that go inside the venturi. And you can also see right here, this little metal piece, that is part of our low speed adjuster needle. So when you turn this out, you're actually going to allow more fuel to meter in to the carburetor. Now we're going to access the high-speed check valve. All it is 2 screws from this plate. Let's talk about physiology of metering fuel with a carburetor like this. So here we have our pilot port, and that's going to be responsible for metering fuel at idle. And to raise or lower the amount of fuel at idle, you're going to use this low adjuster screw. What that means is this low adjuster screw, the tip of the needle is going to pop into that port and it's going to partially cover the opening. So you can actually adjust how much fuel is being metered at idle. Another part of the low circuit is these 4 transition ports that are usually covered by our collar in here. And if you take a look at the inner venturi, here's your pilot jet, and at idle, this butterfly is slightly open because we need air to match our fuel ratio. So when you start to accelerate off of idle, this butterfly opens up, more fuel comes in, and these ports start to be revealed. Without these ports, your acceleration is probably going to fall and you're going to stall out. So it's just going to help give a little more fuel during a time of starvation when you're trying to increase RPMs and get on plane. The other circuit is our main circuit or our high-speed circuit, and our fuel will go through this check valve and get metered into this port. Looking into our venturi, this large circular device, this is our atomizer. This is where the majority of fuel is going to drop in and atomize and mix in with the air. And obviously this port is a lot larger than our pilot port because you need a lot more fuel when you are going faster. For our adjusters, we first have to pop off these restriction caps, and that is to prevent the owner from making adjustments that are not within stock specification. Now, a lot of people will turn these back in to see how many turns they were set at. People that don't have a lot of experience building carburetors, they want to do this because it was running correctly originally and they just wanted to clean it. So they wanted to get that right. But if you look at any ski's manual, it's going to tell you what the stock adjustment setting is. Now, if you're running a modded setup, that is going to be different, and that's going to be dependent on a variety of factors. Don't forget our little O-rings and collars. Now to the fuel pump side. On the fuel pump side, it looks pretty good. Again, we have a little bit of fuel varnish, but that's going to clean up in the ultrasonic cleaner. The cleaner is also going to get all the gunk out of our threads. So if those threads don't clean up and there's still resistance, you can always chase them out with a tap. In order to take the fuel pump apart, you're going to need a security bit like the one I have right here. Here we have one of the check valves. All you have to do is unscrew this. Comes right out. On the back side, we have a little nut that you don't want to lose. Normally we'd put this carburetor in our ultrasonic bath, but the owner wants this stripped and repainted, so we're going to soda blast it first and then put it in our ultrasonic cleaner. Now it is time to reassemble the carburetor. We're going to start with the fuel pump side. When you go to purchase your rebuild kit, just remember that the fuel pump kit is sold separately. Next, we're going to check the diaphragm seals on the pump. We're going to pump it up to about 5 psi. We're going to see if it holds for 10 seconds. When reassembling the diaphragm, take note of these nubs here on the casting. This large hole will go over top of the large nub. That way you know how the diaphragm is oriented. Same with the gasket. Now it is time to do our pop-off pressure test. We're going to hook our pump up to this fitting. We're going to block off this fitting. The pop-off pressure test is a benchmark test that's going to measure the amount of pressure that is required to lift the needle off the seat, which is exhibited by the spring and the needle arm. A pop-off pressure that is lower is going to allow more fuel to be metered at lower RPMs. In other words, it doesn't take as much manifold pressure to meter a lot more fuel, and that technically richens the low-end circuit quite a bit. A lot of brands like Sea-Doo will go with a higher pop-off pressure in order to lean out the idle mixture. And they do this because they need to show the EPA that they are passing the strict emission standards that the EPA sets forth. So a lot of times you'll see smaller pilot jets, you'll see an accelerator pump, and you'll see a higher pop-off pressure in order to pass those tests. One tip for painting your carburetors is finding old fuel line or oil line and using these to cover up your fuel fittings. Lastly, we have to install the low, the high speed adjuster screws as well as the idle set screw. We're going to put these back to factory settings for a Kawasaki 750SX. The low and the high speed adjuster screws are going to be set at 7/8 turns out. For the idle set screw, we're just going to turn this in 2 times. And when you are tuning this on the water for Kawasaki, that idle needs to be around 1250 RPMs plus or minus 100. Lastly, we're going to put these caps on the adjuster screws so that way no one can lean out the fuel mixture.